name is Tanya Dale, and I am a graduate student at Grand Canyon University in Student Affairs. I'd like to review for you today strategies that will help new student affairs professionals navigate crisis in a manner that will increase positive resolutions and decrease liabilities for your respective universities. There are three laws that are applicable to crisis management on campus. The first of which is FERPA. That stands for Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. This act protects the privacy of students' records. The second is HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. And this protects the privacy of students' medical records and information. And last is ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act. And this gives equal opportunities to students with a registered disability to have federal protections in relation to their disabilities. All three of these laws, you will need to incorporate all of the policies and protocols when dealing with crisis management. Really, when doing anything on campus, you're going to need to keep these laws in mind. But most specifically, when it comes to handling crisis, you're going to want to go keep it to the letter and make sure you're in compliance. I'm going to share with you some key ideas on best practice for handling crisis when it occurs. Number one, speak calmly and remain composed. Explain the safety of students as your top priority. Assure them that steps are being taken to protect them. Take an empathetic stance. Be honest but brief. Avoid opinions, stay with factual information. Offer continual support to your students. Check on them frequently. And try to find a new state of normal or routine. At the onset of a crisis, it's likely that the very first person who saw something occur has notified emergency public safety personnel. That could be paramedics, law enforcement, fire department, based on the crisis. So assuming that the crisis has had responders to it, the next cross-functional team that should be activated would be the school's crisis team. This team will consist of key players across the student affairs and campus administration. And they all have been preparing for crisis in their planning. So as soon as this occurs, they all have jobs to do. So they need to be next in line after the 911 call situation. And then the next cross-functional team, which usually is a small component of the crisis team, is the campus mental health team. They will typically have counseling and support groups and grief counselors and all of that ready to go so that support information can be distributed as things progress. So they would be the third cross-functional team activated. The standard operating protocol for a student affairs department may look a little different from university to university. I would say logically, the first protocol would be reporting. So paperwork, the paper trail, you've got to get it written down, and a full account summarizing the event so that it's made official with the university. Next up, and not long thereafter, is a faculty meeting that needs to take place that updates staff and that prepares for the student support that's going to come next. And three will be very important because we're a school, to schedule when routine will resume. So seeing if this crisis has halted operations, we would need to make a plan for when it would resume normally or somewhat normally. And then four would be to hold a community meeting, giving the public the information on the event, the plan to return, the date for that, and offering those support resources. Then the specific follow-up for the crisis would be counseling teams offered. They will need to be actually available on site and easy to access for students and faculty that need it. And then the crisis team should meet routinely following a crisis to meet the changing needs, whatever is to come from this crisis. They need to meet and revisit what needs to be done. My suggestion for maintaining professionalism, transparency, and confidentiality within a student crisis would be as follows. Professionalism. Be prepared and be composed before addressing the public in any way, whether that's the media, whether that's social media, whether that's just a student address or a parent address. You need to be prepared and composed. Typically within the crisis team, you've had appointed a spokesperson. This person's usually pretty poised and professional and would be ready to get in front of a camera and handle themselves eloquently. Stick to facts, give no opinions, and make no judgments. For transparency, be honest, but be brief, no disturbing details. Share what you can about the planned resolutions. And for confidentiality, abide by the laws and regulations for what information you can and cannot share. A student affairs administration that is properly planned for crisis will be best equipped to handle serious matters, executing grace under pressure. Make sure you and your team members practice for these events. They are unfortunate, but not uncommon. Your students and university will have better resolutions if you stay prepared. Thank you for listening.